Look, sit down here with me, turn off the light in the room, close the door, put your headphones on tight, and come straight to the Ponce of the 90s? When the sun hit so brutally that the asphalt melted and the entire street smelled of burnt gunpowder, of the sweat of fear, of freshly cut cocaine, of dried blood that no one dared to wash off the pavement. Here, there was no macho king who lasted more than 2 news cycles. Here, only one woman was in charge, just one, and her name was Ángela Ayala Martinez. A woman who wasn't born with a crown or a golden pistol, no, she forged it herself, through lead, with an intelligence colder than a corner store fridge in January, with a gaze that froze your soul, and a heart that didn't tremble even when she saw her own blood fall to the ground. People call her La Señora, the lady, because when she entered a drug spot, even the stray dogs shut their mouths and hid under the cars. They call her La Vieja, the old woman, because she had more street knowledge and experience than all the men combined. They call her La Pava because she would peck away at anyone in her path, alive and slowly. And those who looked into her eyes up close, those who felt that chill run down their spine when she pierced them with a look as if she were reading their soul, those people didn't call her anything out loud. They simply lowered their heads, swallowed hard, and called her La Bichota de Ponce. Today, you and I are going to walk together through every housing project she dominated. We're going to enter every safe house where the product was cut until dawn. We're going to hear every shot fired by her order. We're going to smell the fear that remained impregnated in the air of Lirios del Sur, La Cantera, Tibes, Atocha Street. Every corner where even today, the elderly lower their voices when they mention her name, where even today there are mothers who pray to the saints that she never returns. Because this isn't just another narco story. This is the story of the only woman in Puerto Rico who rose to be the boss of bosses, the only one who brought half the south of the island to its knees, the only one who proved that in the street it doesn't matter if you have balls or not. What matters is if you have a cold head, a firm hand, and a heart of ice. And when we finish this video, I swear, on my mother in heaven, every time you pass through Ponce, every time you see a drug spot, every time you hear a car with loud music and tinted windows, every time you see a woman walking alone down the street with a steady gaze, you're gonna feel that she is still there sitting on some balcony, watching, waiting, reminding the street who truly ruled. Hold on tight, breathe deep, because this starts right now and doesn't stop until the sun comes up and goes away again. Before starting, take a second to follow me and like this video. The Caribbean becomes a highway, and Puerto Rico the perfect backyard. To understand how a woman from Ponce ended up ruling more than any man on the entire island, you have to travel with me to the years 1989, 1990, 1991, when the Medellin and Cali cartels were still the absolute owners of planet Earth. Pablo Escobar was already dead, the Rodriguez Orejuela brothers were being imprisoned one after another, the extraditables were disappearing, and the Mexican cartels took advantage of the vacuum to brutally hike the toll 50% for every kilo that crossed the Mexico-US border. Imagine that you arrive with 1,000 kilos of pure cocaine and you're left with 500. That was a legal robbery in a uniform and all. The Colombians sat on a farm in the Valle del Cauca, looked at the map, scratched their heads, and said, "We are not going to keep paying that crap anymore." And they saw the entire Caribbean as a highway without radar, without tolls, and without police. And that was when Puerto Rico, without asking for it, without wanting it, and without imagining it, became the perfect backdoor to the United States. Because here, Puerto Ricans and Dominicans only charged 20%, a bargain. Suddenly, speedboats were leaving Buenaventura, Cartagena, La Guajira, and Tumaco loaded to the brim with thousands of kilos. Go-fast planes crossed the night sky, dropping bundles with GPS and parachutes into the high seas of Guayanilla, Peñuelas, Tallaboa, and Playa Santa. Fishing boats that seemed to carry fresh fish but carried 1,000, 1,500, 2,000, 3,000 kilos hidden in double bottoms, fuel tanks, and fake freezers. And when they touched Puerto Rican soil, thanks to the damned ELA, Commonwealth status, the merchandise was already domestic. It didn't pass through US Customs again. It was like arriving directly in Miami without your passport or suitcases being checked. In 1998, Donnie Marshall, interim head of the DEA, stood before the United States Congress and said it without anesthesia or hesitation. Puerto Rico had become the favorite bridge for Colombian drug trafficking in the entire Caribbean. He dropped numbers that still give me goosebumps today and make me look at the southern coast with different eyes. Seizures of 500, 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 kilos were the daily bread in Playa de Ponce, Guayanilla, and Peñuelas. He mentioned the 96 case when they seized 6.5 metric tons on a boat heading to the Bahamas passing through the south of Puerto Rico. He spoke of the nearly 300 miles of coastline, the hundreds of deserted keys, the 6 million square miles of open sea between Colombia and us that were literally impossible to patrol with the resources they had. And there, in the middle of that historical testimony, he dropped 3 Puerto Rican names that had half the Caribbean trembling: Alberto Caracol, Orlandes Gamboa, Celeste Santana, and the one the DA feared most, the one they describe as the most active, the most violent organization, and the one that moved the most cocaine and heroin on the entire island, Ángela Ayala Martinez. And when the DEA says that in Congress, things are serious, that is not corner gossip, that there are documents, recordings, and bodies to back it up, from corner seller to supplying half the South. Ángela Ayala Martinez was not born with a silver spoon or in a fine neighborhood. She was born and raised in Ponce, on the same toughest street we all know, between houses of concrete block and zinc, skinny dogs barking all night, children playing ball barefoot on the hot pavement, mothers screaming from windows for them to come in and eat. She started like any of us would have if life pushed you, selling $10 and $20 bags on the corner of the housing project, running when the police came in their blue and white Jeep Cherokees, hiding the stash in her bra, in the baby's diapers, under the mattress, doing favors to earn the respect of those who ruled at that time. But this woman had something the others didn't. She had vision, she had discipline, and she had the memory of an elephant for numbers and betrayals. While the others spent their money on Cuban gold chains, 4-tracks with chrome rims, and crates of rum, she saved it, invested it, made contacts, and earned the trust of the heavy hitters little by little, without making noise, without talking trash. And in 1995, she delivered the masterstroke that turned her into a living legend. She met Jorge Alicea Serrano, alias Jockey, a Colombian who wasn't just any corner gopher, he was a direct contact for the Norte del Valle cartel, for the brothers Luis Enrique and Javier Antonio Calle Serna, people who moved tons like someone moves rice. Jockey saw that Ángela paid on time, that she didn't talk trash, and that she had loyal people and almost military discipline, and he opened the front door wide for her. Suddenly, shipments were no longer 20 or 30 kilos hidden in a small boat trembling with the waves. They were 200, 300, 500,000 kilos at once. They arrived by air and sea at the same time. Go-fast planes dropped bundles in the open sea of Playa, Santa, Guayanilla, Peñuelas, and Tallaboa, with GPS and infrared lights so her boatmen could find them in total darkness. Fishing boats docked at the Sugar Pier, in Tallaboa, in Playa de Ponce with double bottoms, fake fuel tanks, and freezers that seem to carry fish but carry bricks wrapped in duct tape. And when the product hit land, they move it quickly in cars with caletas, hidden compartments, in trucks with false bottoms, to safe houses in Los Lirios del Sur, Santiago Iglesias, La Cantera, Tibes, Atocha Street, Belgica, La Cuatro Calles, in every sector where she already had trusted people waiting with table scales and plastic bags. There they cut it with lidocaine, with creatine, with whatever was available. They packaged it in aluminum foil, in little bags with a red seal, and in less than 48 hours, it was already on the street selling for 28 paper, 50 a gram, 17,000 a kilo wholesale. And the drug spots that used to buy expensive from others now bought directly from her and cheaper, purer. Overnight, Ángela went from being just another seller to being the main supplier for all of Ponce, Juana Díaz, Peñuelas, Yauco, Guayanilla, and even part of Santa Isabel. And when you control the product, you control the entire street. You control the life and death of half the South. The most perfect criminal enterprise Puerto Rico has ever had. This wasn't a group of crazy people with guns and no brains. This was a multinational narco corporation, perfectly organized, with hierarchy, departments, payroll, and benefits. And Ángela Ayala Martinez was the absolute CEO, the one who signed the checks, even if they were in blood. She didn't have to be on the corner sweating under the sun. She was at her house in Los Lirios del Sur, sitting on the balcony with a fan, talking on her Nextel, giving clear orders, receiving the money personally in trash bags, in beach coolers, in backpacks full of dirty bills. She had people for absolutely everything, and everyone knew their position and the price of failing. She had boatmen who went out at night to get the cargo on the high seas. She had drivers who moved the bundles in cars with double hidden compartments. She had women and men in safe houses cutting and packaging 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. She had pushers in every drug spot who didn't stop to sleep, eat, or see their children. She had money collectors who passed by every single day with backpacks full of $20 and $10 bills. She had gatilleros, hitmen, with AK 47 seconds, AR 15 seconds, Glocks with chips and laser sights who watched to make sure no one got smart. She had professional money launderers who bought Cadillacs, Lexuses, late model BMWs, houses in La Alhambra, La Rambla, Extensión Alhambra, refrigerators, 18,000 BTU air conditioners in bulk, all in the names of grandmothers, aunts, distant cousins, people with no record who didn't even know what they were signing at the notary. And the craziest part of all, she had police and public employees on the payroll. In the federal indictment, names appear that people still mention quietly today. Florencio Sanchez, a former agent of the Puerto Rico police, and Yolanda Ruiz, an employee of the Department of Correction and Rehabilitation. They passed her information about raids before they happened, warned her when the DEA was coming, told her which cars were marked, which phones were tapped. They even gave her armed escort when she had to move to San Juan or Mayagüez to close big deals. Because in this business, he who has the law on his side has the street on his side, and Ángela understood that from day one. And here we are at the halfway point of the video, my people. If this story is blowing your mind like it is mine, subscribe right now. If you like the video, activate the bell, and leave me a comment telling me what part has you the craziest so far. Go ahead, that helps me keep bringing you these real stories from our streets. The Ponce War, when the entire city turned red, 1994 to 1997, Ponce in those years wasn't a city. It was a battlefield without truce, without rules, and without mercy. There were 3, 4, 5 wars going on at the same time, and they all revolved around the spots Ángela controlled or those that bought exclusively from her. The most brutal war started in '94 when Gerardito, brother-in-law of Tommy Garcia, the original owner of the La Cantera spot, stole $35,000 in cash and $40,000 in merchandise from the Garcia family. Tommy didn't forgive family or anything, he declared total war. Gerardito looked for heavy allies, Miguel and Eddie Vasquez, two brothers who owned Joyeria Vasquez in Plaza del Caribe, fine people, with suits and ties, no criminal record, but with guns, money, and a thirst for blood. And that's when complete hell broke loose. The shooting started on every corner, at any hour, in front of schools, churches, and grocery stores. They killed Tony Garcia and Abraham El Gordo Burgos right in the urban center, in front of the Plaza de las Delicias, in broad daylight, with people running and screaming. Eddie Vasquez took out Danny Gongolon in retaliation at the entrance of Tibes. Things escalated so much that the federal government had to step in because it seemed Ponce was gonna run out of young people. And the most brutal blow came on the 14th of February 1997, Valentine's Day. Gamaliel Berumen and his wife Rosamari were driving calmly in their car with the kids in the back on Highway PR2 heading toward Ponce. Andres Garcia, Manuel Garcia, and Marcos Martinez were waiting for them with high-powered rifles, ski masks, and clear orders. They rained bullets on them, more than 100 shots, killing them in front of their children. The kids screaming, blood all over the glass, the wife trying to cover the children with her body as she died. Days later, they kidnapped Michel Vasquez. They dressed as police, stopped him on the road with lights and sirens, put him in an official car, handed him over to the Garcias, and he never appeared again. That same day, they took out Eddie Vasquez in another sector. And cooperating witnesses later swore in federal court that the order had come directly from Ángela Ayala's house that she herself celebrated with Dom Perignon champagne and loud music when she was told the plan had gone perfectly. And that was just one war. There were more. In Lirios del Sur, two guys tried to become independent and appeared with their tongues cut off inside a sack at the entrance of the housing project. In La Cantera, they took out a runner, and the next day, they found his car burned with him still inside, alive and screaming. In Tibes, they killed a hitman who talked too much and left him lying there with a sign that said, "This happens to snitches." The entire city lived in fear. No one spoke loudly. No one looked sideways. Grocery stores closed early. Mothers didn't let their children out after 6. Because they knew La Bichota saw everything, that she had eyes on every corner, ears in every carport. The DEA tightens its grip, and the empire begins to crumble. The DEA had been listening for years, recording, putting microphones in cars, houses, Nextel phones, in the drug spots themselves. They recorded Ángela's people selling 160 grams to an undercover agent in August of '96, 158 grams in December, even negotiating 200 kilos at once with an agent posing as a heavy Colombian. They recorded a conversation where one of the hitmen said literally, "La Pava ordered those two bastards from Lirios to be killed because they wanted to take the spot from her, and she doesn't forgive that." And in May of '97, the hammer dropped like never before seen in Puerto Rico. Simultaneous raids in Los Lirios, La Cantera, Tibes, La Alhambra, luxury homes, drug spots, grocery stores. workshops, everything. 50 arrests in a single day. They took luxury cars, they took cash, they took long guns, they even took the air conditioners that had been bought with dirty money. And in December of 97 came the big indictment. A federal grand jury accused 76 people of conspiracy to distribute cocaine and heroin, 29 of them also for money laundering. Names of police, public employees, hitmen, launderers, pushers, it all came to light on national television. Ángela asked the court for a change of venue, saying that she couldn't get an impartial jury in Puerto Rico because the press had crucified her before the trial. She presented clippings from El Vocero, Primera Hora, and El Nuevo Día, where they call her the narco queen of the South, the most dangerous woman in Puerto Rico, responsible for more than 40 murders. She compared her case to the invasion of Panama to remove Noriega. But federal judge Salvador Casellas told her no, that the press had told the truth and the motion was denied outright. The 40-day trial that made history. The trial began on Monday, the 5th of October 1998, in courtroom number 1 of the federal court in Hato Rey. Since 6 in the morning, there was already a line of press, cameras, reporters, victims' families, and the curious. At 8:45, the marshal's caravan arrived. 3 black Suburbans, tinted windows, lights off. They brought Ángela Ayala Martinez down through the side basement door, shackled hand and foot, with a bulletproof vest under her orange jumpsuit, her hair tied in a high ponytail, and the white sneakers they give you in prison. She walked the 35 steps to the elevator without looking at anyone, without lowering her head, without a single muscle in her face trembling. The room was packed to the limit. 200 occupied seats, 30 standing in the back, DEA agents in the front row, federal prosecutors with boxes and boxes of evidence piled up next to them. The judge was Salvador Casellas, the same one who, years later, would be in the public eye for his son's case. When Ángela entered, the silence was total. She sat at the defense table next to her 2 lawyers paid with money that was no longer hers. The first day was pure procedure. Reading of charges, preliminary jury selection, defense motions. Prosecutor Rosa Emilia Rodriguez Velez read the entire indictment in 45 minutes. 76 defendants, more than 300 charges, conspiracy to distribute more than 5 kilos of cocaine, more than 1 kilo of heroin, money laundering, and indirect participation in more than 40 drug-related murders. When she finished, the judge asked for a 15-minute recess, and the room emptied in silence. The next 15 days were for selecting the jury, 12 regulars, and 4 alternates. The defense tried to disqualify anyone who had read the newspapers or watched television in 97 and 98, but almost all of Puerto Rico had seen something. In the end, 8 women and 8 men remained, a mix from San Juan, Bayamón, and Ponce. All swore impartiality. From day 16 to day 35, the prosecution presented its case. They brought more than 800 pieces of physical evidence, 6 kilos of cocaine, confiscated long guns, confiscated luxury cars, houses bought with dirty money, air conditioners piled in yards, jewelry, Rolex watches, Cuban gold chains, photographs of bullet-riddled bodies, surveillance videos, phone recordings, bank statements, property titles in the names of frontmen, mechanic shop, invoices, grocery store receipts, all marked, sealed, and presented one by one. They showed giant maps of southern Puerto Rico with drug spots marked in red. Lirios del Sur, Santiago Iglesias, La Cantera, Tibes, Atoja, La Cuatro Calles, Bélgica, all connected with lines that ended at Ángela's house in Los Lirios del Sur. They showed aerial photos of the southern coast with boat routes marked, photos of bundles floating on the high seas, photos of safe houses with tables full of cut cocaine. The defense tried to object to almost everything, but Judge Casellas let almost everything through. There were days when the room emptied at 5 in the afternoon and filled up again at 9 the next morning as if nothing had happened. On day 22, the prosecution finished its direct case. The defense asked for dismissal of charges for lack of direct evidence. The judge denied the motion in 10 minutes. Then came the defense's turn. They presented Ángela as a victim of the press, as a hardworking mother who had kept bad company, as a woman who had never touched a weapon or ordered a murder. They tried to show that everything was circumstantial, that there were no fingerprints, that there were no direct recordings of her giving orders to kill. It lasted 8 days. The jury listened, took notes, and showed no expression. On day 38, they closed final arguments. The prosecutor spoke for an hour and 20 minutes without notes, looking the jury in the eyes, reviewing every murder, every kilo, every luxury car, every house bought with blood. She finished by saying the jury held in their hands the justice Ponce had been waiting for years. The defense spoke for 55 minutes asking for reasonable doubt, saying everything was a DA construct, that the cooperators lied for sentence reductions, that Ángela was a scapegoat for a system that needed a big head. On day 39, the judge gave instructions to the jury. Deliberate, don't talk to anyone, don't read newspapers, don't watch television. They locked them in at 11 in the morning. They deliberated for 3 hours and 55 minutes. At 3:55 in the afternoon on the 18th of December 1998, the foreman knocked on the door. The room filled in minutes. They brought Ángela from the basement cell. She entered just like the first day, upright, looking at no one. The foreman stood and read, "Guilty on count 1, guilty on count 2, guilty on count 3, and so on until the last charge. Guilty on each and every one." The judge set sentencing for January. On the 29th of January 1999, he read the sentence: life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, plus 30 consecutive years for money laundering. Ángela listened standing up without moving. When they finished, the marshals handcuffed her again and took her out through the same basement door. Then came the appeals to the First Circuit in Boston, all lost. In 2013, she filed a motion for reconsideration under a new Supreme Court precedent, denied. In 2022, she asked for compassionate release due to age and medical conditions, denied again. Today, December 2025, Ángela Ayala Martinez is 66 years old and is still serving a real-life sentence in the federal prison, FCI, Waseca, Minnesota. Register number 03356269. No release date. Never. The legacy of the first and only Puerto Rican bichota. Look, after all this, after having walked with you through every bullet-riddled street, through every safe house, through every funeral, through every trial, through every cold cell in Minnesota, one is left thinking about what Ángela Ayala Martinez really left behind. Because she wasn't just another narco. She was living proof that a Puerto Rican woman, born in the same crap as all of us, raised between concrete block and zinc, without a rich father or a politician mother, could rise up and bring half the south of the island to its knees. She was the only one who got that high being a woman. Period. Neither before nor after has there been another. Today, the spots she controlled are in other hands. But the old folks still tell the stories quietly. There are still grandmothers in Liros del Sur who make the sign of the cross when they pass by the house where she lived. There are still corners in La Cantera where the new kids don't dare mention her name out loud because they feel she is watching them. She proved that in the street, it doesn't matter if you are a man or a woman. What matters is if you have a cold head, if you know how to command without shouting, if you know how to punish without hatred, if you know how to make people fear and respect you at the same time. And she had it all. There are new bichotas today, of course, but none ever reached her level. None controlled so many spots, none moved so many kilos. None had the entire DEA trembling like they trembled with her. And even though she's locked up forever in a cold prison in Minnesota, even though she's now 66 years old, even though she can never walk through Ponce again, her name lives on. It lives on in every scar in Ponce, in every mother who lost a son in those wars, in every old man who still lowers his voice when he speaks of her, in every new narco who knows he will never feel her shoes. Because Ángela Ayala Martinez was not a narco. She was the narco. The first and the only real Puerto Rican bichota. And the street never forgets who truly ruled. And here we reach the end of this story that started almost 8 hours ago and that even today, after so many years, gives goosebumps to anyone who truly knows it. 8 hours walking with you through the darkest streets of Ponce, through the hottest housing projects, through the safe houses, through the courts, through the prisons. 8 hours talking about a woman who marked an era and who even today, though locked up thousands of miles away, continues to command respect. If you like the video, subscribe if you like the video, give it a like from the heart, share it with someone who needs to know what the street was really like in the 90s, with someone who needs to understand that here, not everything was music and beach, that here there was also blood, power, and a woman who proved that you can rule without having to shout. Leave me your comment. Do you think Ángela Ayala will one day get out of prison? Or will she stay there forever? Do you think there will ever be another woman who reaches her level on this island? Or do you think she was the first and the last? I want to read you. Thank you for staying the full 8 hours with me. Thank you for respecting this story. Thank you for walking these dark streets of Ponce by my side. Thank you for not changing the video when it got intense. Thank you for understanding that these stories are also part of who we are as Puerto Ricans. This channel exists because people like you stay until the end, because people like you share, comment, and support. And as long as you are there, I am going to keep bringing these real stories, without filters, without fear, and without lies. Take care of yourselves, my people. Stay alert. Remember that the street never forgets. And remember also that in the street, the one in charge is not always the one who shouts the most. Sometimes it is the one who speaks the least and watches the most. Big blessings to all of you and your families. See you in the next video with another case that will blow your mind again. This was Bandidos de Puerto Rico, and Ángela Ayala Martinez was, is, and will be La Bichota. Peace, my people. And until next time,